You guys hear me okay in the back? Okay, terrific. Well, thanks for coming. And how many of you came to my presentation yesterday? Oh, wow, a lot of you. Okay, well, we're continuing with that same, on the same thread. Yesterday we focused on cancer, and today we're going on to reversing disease, because the underlying principle of what you're learning from me is that the same diet style that maximizes human longevity and slows the aging process, enabling us to live well with our full physical and mental faculties to 100 years old in good health. Those same principles work therapeutically to reverse disease and effectively enable people suffering with autoimmune conditions, early stage cancers. We talked about those cancer cases yesterday. Heart disease, diabetes, strokes, heart failure. Lots of people can use this therapeutically to reverse disease much more effectively than taking medications or conventional medical care that's focused on surgery and drugs. That's what this is all about, giving people hope and the informed consent they need to make the right choices for their life, to protect their precious health, because you only get one body, and when you destroy it, you don't get a new one. You just get one. And a nutritarian diet is all about picking the finest foods to put in your body, the foods with the most documented protective effects to slow aging, prevent cancer, and protect your health, while at the same time minimizing or eliminating harmful foods. Kind of simple, isn't it? What could be more simple than that? We are what we eat. You can't expect to eat bagels and pasta and donuts and cookies and crackers and rice cakes and breakfast bars, whether vegan or not, and expect to have good health. You pay a price for every food you put in your body that's low in nutrients. Because when you eat foods that are low in nutrients, your body builds up more toxic waste products. And the waste products we're talking about here, there are many of them. We talk about reactive oxygen species of free radicals, and we talk about advanced glycation end products, and other toxins that build up and make us into food addicts and calorie-consuming monsters. And the more you eat foods without nutrients in them, the more you are desirous of extra calories. And the secret to achieving an ideal weight is meeting your nutritional needs with healthy foods so you don't become a food addict and don't desire excess calories. So with that as an introduction, let's get started, because I feel so rewarded and blessed to be able to have affected the lives of so many thousands of people. And the real superheroes here are the people that have made those changes in their lives and recovered their health. And it's exciting for me to see these people who've made these changes and recovered their health, and I'm excited to present them to you. So in this presentation, I'm going to present some cases to you of people who've made changes in their diet and recovered their health, to see the examples of the power of nutritional excellence. And these people are representative of what a nutritarian diet can do. That's what we're doing here today. So the American diet, or the standard American diet, the SAD diet, some people call it the SAD diet. I call it the deadly American diet, designed by ISIS, maybe. Because if you eat American food, it doesn't just cause cancer and heart disease, it also makes you dumber, it lowers your creativity, it increases risk of mental illness and depression, and it destroys your life, and you get wrapped up with medical tragedies, so you can't enjoy your life as you get older. It's destructive, and it's actually disgusting. And to simplify this, I'm grouping animal products and processed foods together in one category. I'm saying here, let's make it quite simple. There are three types of foods. There's natural plant foods, and then there's processed foods and animal products. And processed foods and animal products have a lot in common, right? I'm always saying a bagel is like a piece of chicken. A bagel is like a piece of chicken because neither one contains a significant micronutrient load. They don't contain a substantial amount of vitamins and minerals. They don't contain fiber. They don't contain antioxidants and phytochemicals. And we're eating calories with no significant nutrient load. And the more we eat empty calories, the more we shorten our lives. Everything you put in your mouth matters. And when you put in your body colorful plants then you're flooding your body with powerful nutrients, particularly antioxidants, phytochemicals, and those nutrients that protect our telomeres from aging and stabilize our stem cells. What I'm saying right now is that the RDI for vitamin C might be 60 milligrams, but a nutritarian diet might give us 600 milligrams. The RDI for vitamin K might be 150 micrograms, but the nutritarian diet might give us 10 times that. If we follow animals around in the jungles, like baboons and chimpanzees and gorillas, with telephoto lenses and measure what they eat, we find they consume 20 to 50 times as much antioxidants and nutrients as people eating a standard American diet. The American diet, right in front of you, the standard American diet, where people are eating 2% of their calories from vegetables. The most powerful anti-cancer food in the world, longevity-affecting food, are vegetables, and the American diet only eats American people only eat 2% of vegetables in their diet. If we plot the amount of unrefined plant food, this is all about eating more unrefined plant food. And if we look at data from the 1960s, we can go back and see countries that ate a lot of unrefined plant foods. And if we look at those countries that ate the most unrefined plant foods, we can see as those foods increased in the diet, those diseases of nutritional stupidity, like heart attacks and cancers and strokes, go down to nothing. It's a direct inverse correlation. More unrefined plants, less disease. Quite simple to remember. This is irrefutable. The amount of scientific evidence that from the scientific literature and from historical evidence, and also from epidemiologic studies with large numbers of people going on for decades, we find that, of course, that we know that fruits and vegetables and beans and nuts and seeds extend lifespan and are good for us. And you take any one of those foods out of the diet, you remove nuts and seeds from the diet, people don't live as long. You take beans out, they don't live as long. You take fruit out, they don't live as long. You take, in other words, as you remove, we know that vegetables are the most powerful foods against cancer, but we also know that a diet that includes vegetables and fruit has better effects at protecting against cancer than just the vegetables alone. It's the synergy of all these foods together, having a wide variety of plants. And right now we have an unprecedented opportunity in human history to be able to have a wide variety of clean, organic plant foods in our diet that we never could achieve in human history. What I'm saying right now, the portfolio of foods available in our nutritarian diet are much broader and more protective than what's available and was available in the blue zones. The blue zones are not representative of the healthiest diets available. They're just lucky to have a better diet than the average American diet based on what's locally available to them. They're not based on science. They're based on what's locally available and customs and the way people have eaten for a long time. And they're much better than the way Americans eat. And they afford people the opportunity to live approximately 10 years longer than the average American. But a nutritarian diet doesn't attempt to replicate that. This is much better than a blue zone. We're taking the best of all the blue zones, using science to design a dietary portfolio that maximizes human longevity and blows out the results of a blue zone out of the water and have people live to be 95 to 105. Not just 8 years longer, but 20 years longer. There's no controversies here. It's essentially right now well established with a huge amount of science that excessive amounts of animal products, as animal products go up in a diet, so does disease risk from the common causes of death. And as refined carbohydrates go up, the high glycemic carbohydrates, so does the same causes of death. And we can argue which is more dangerous, but it's an irrelevant point because they're both dangerous. And even moderate amounts of white rice and honey and maple syrup and white bread, even moderate amounts increase disease. Even 2 servings a week of commercial baked goods are associated with increased risk, 50% increased risk of depression. Even 1 serving a week of French fries is associated with a 26% increased risk of later life breast cancer. Even moderate amount of these foods. So people advocating this plant-based whole food movement, but suggesting that we should just do it partially, it's not really giving people what they need to know. Because if you really want protection, especially because many of us haven't eaten healthy the first half of our lives, you can't just do this moderately. You have to do it all the way, because then the magic happens. And that's what this lecture is about. It's about doing it all the way and seeing the magic that happens. Because what the body does is, as you eat extra calories, it speeds up its metabolism to try to burn some of those calories off. So I may only burn 5 extra pounds, not 10, because my thyroid, my body temperature will increase, my respiratory quotient will increase to burn those calories off, my thyroid will increase its function, my body will put into motion a series of biological efforts to try to burn off those extra calories, speeding up my metabolic rate. But that's speeding up the aging process. What I'm teaching you right now is when your body accelerates its metabolism to burn extra calories, it's aging your body faster. You following that? We're not looking to speed up a metabolic rate. We're looking to slow down a metabolic rate. Here I am at 150 pounds, and my caloric needs for the day, let's just say, are 1,500 calories a day. Now what if I only eat 1,400, 100 calories less? Now 100 calories times 350 days a year, 3,500 calories a pound, that means a year from now I'm going to lose 10 pounds, right? No, right, wrong. Because I'm already at low body fat. My body fat's below 10%. The exercise I do gives a signal to my body that says, maintain this degree of activity because he's utilizing those muscles. Let him have that muscle tissue because he needs them, he's utilizing them. Don't let them go away. So my body's going to fight to maintain this weight and not lose the extra weight, not lose weight needlessly. So what do you think my body's going to do to try to not lose weight as I cut back on calories? What is it going to do? It'll slow down the metabolic rate. It'll lower the body temperature. It'll lower my respiratory quotient. It'll lower the thyroid function a little bit. It'll put into motion a series of parameters which will have me only lose a few pounds, and I'll have aged slower. You're learning the secret to living to be 100 years old, to age slower. It's completely different from the comic book nutrition you hear out there in the women's magazines or something, or the other, right? People are trying to look for a gimmick or a trick so they can speed up the metabolic rate so they can eat more food and not get too fat, right? Isn't that what people are trying to do? And I'm telling you, you want to eat right and be able to eat right so you're comfortable eating a little less food so you can eat less and not get too thin. Following this now? Completely different. And you know what? You don't desire more food because you're satisfied with less too. We're focusing on foods with a lot of scientific data to show those foods extend human lifespan. And I utilize this acronym GBOMS: greens and beans and onions and mushrooms and berries and seeds, so people can remember and have at the tip of their tongue those foods I want them to try to eat every day. Because when you put together a full dietary portfolio that includes raw greens and raw onion family with cooked mushrooms and cooked beans, that combination of nutrients is more powerful than just one nutrient alone, and it has the effect to make for the most favorable microbiome that thickens the biofilm and makes that biofilm adhere to the villi, lowering the glycemic effect of everything you eat. There's a huge amount of beneficial effects when you have the full category of GBOMs in your diet on a regular basis. Scientists call it the second meal effect. What they mean by that is the next day when you have maybe some oatmeal and mango and the raisins or in the morning, the glycemic effect of that breakfast is moderated and lowered because you ate the greens and the beans and the mushrooms the day before, and the microbiome is so favorable that it has the effect to slow the absorption of glucose through the digestive tract wall, lowering the insulin response. Even though you didn't eat beans or anything favorable at that meal, you got the benefit from what you ate at prior meals. That's why they call it the second meal effect. And statin drugs to lower cholesterol cause people to gain weight and cause them to become diabetic. And they increase the risk of breast cancer. And they increase the risk of macular degeneration and dementia and other problems. And you know what? They cause muscle breakdown and liver problems. Let me explain this. they're still causing fatigue and damage to muscle tissue, even if there's no pain, no apparent symptoms, and nothing in the blood test to demonstrate any damage is occurring. In other words, there's still damage that occurs even when it's below the level of measurable perception. Did you follow that? Damage still occurs. And after years and years of use, that damage builds up little by little and even weakens the heart muscle and could put you at higher risk of having a heart attack or a cardiac arrhythmia from your heart attack or from your cardiac ischemia, could make your heart weaker, not stronger. These are not without risks. And they're not needed when people are not ever needed. It's very rare that they would ever be needed on people who are eating healthfully. Blood pressure medications are also not safe. I mentioned earlier that calcium channel blockers have been shown to double the risk of breast cancer after 10 years of use. But you know that the systolic blood pressure is the pressure pushed on the wall of the blood vessels when the heart squeezes and explodes the blood like a cannon to get to your head and your feet, right? Blood explodes that blood pressure, shoots it out under high pressure, and that's called the systolic blood pressure. Now, the diastolic blood pressure is when the distension of the peripheral blood vessels expand as a result of that high pressure cannon explosion, and the contraction of the blood vessels that have been distended back again to the inside is what helps propel the blood back to the heart and lungs again. You don't want it to stay in your feet or your brain. It has to get back. How does it get back? Well, it's getting back as diastolic recall. That's the second heart. So it goes boom, 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 boom. And the second boom is the blood coming back to the heart. And when does the coronary arteries fill the myocardium with oxygen and nutrients? During systole, when the heart squeezes and explodes, or during diastole, when the heart relaxes and the peripheral blood vessels are squeezing the blood back to the heart? When does the heart get filled with oxygen? What? During diastole. You understand that? When it's refilling, it's relaxing. And what do blood pressure medications do? And how do blood pressure medications increase the risk of atrial fibrillation, cardiac arrhythmias, and sudden cardiac death? How come blood pressure medications are so dangerous? Because they lower systolic blood pressure at the expense of pushing diastolic blood pressure too low. And the blood can't get back to the heart adequately. So blood pressure medications are the primary reason people develop atrial fibrillation. They get atrial fibrillation from doctors giving them medications to lower their blood pressure. Then they go to the doctor, and the doctor has to put them on blood-thinning medications for their atrial fibrillation. Then they get hemorrhagic strokes, gastrointestinal bleeds, some other problems with that. Or maybe they get just GI irritation and reflux, and then they give them proton pump inhibitors, which increase risk of heart attacks, and they develop, it causes increased risk of osteoporosis from the proton pump inhibitors and the blood thinners, so they've got to give a bisphosphonate for that, which then causes more gastrointestinal problems and more irritation than the... It's just one after another. One drug leads to another drug, and another person's on 10 different medications to counter the effects of the other medications. The first thing we learned in the first week of medical school was that all drugs are toxic. They don't work because they're nutritive. They work because they're poisonous. Just like natural herbal remedies have efficacy based on their toxicity, not based on their nutritive component. But we have to fuel those mechanisms of reversal with a high exposure to green vegetables. And that's what the studies show, just like the study I showed you yesterday that showed that people who ate the most green vegetables and the highest quintile of green vegetable consumption had the longest lifespan. Did you remember that slide from yesterday? On 130,000 Asians, who the ones who ate the most greens lived the longest, right? And we see the same thing with nut studies, that as people eat more nuts and seeds, we see dropping of LDL cholesterol, dropping of the small, dense LDL particles, and removal of the most dangerous oxidized LDL. And nuts and seeds also have been shown to help restore vascular elasticity and enable the body to accelerate the removal of plaque. We have numerous studies, more than 20, represented by this 5, the Adventist Health Studies, the Ohio Women's Health Study, the Nurses' Health Study, the Physicians' Health Study, and all these studies show the same thing. They all show dramatic reduction in cardiovascular death with the regular inclusion of nuts and seeds in the diet, and they also show reduction in cancer and reduction in all-cause mortality. Here's some cases. Here's Jody, who we saw about 15 years ago. What is the year on that? It says 2006. Yeah, about 15 years ago. She had psoriatic arthritis on steroids and other drugs for most of her life, in bed for 30 years, unable to move too well with her psoriatic arthritis. She made a complete recovery. I remember Jody came to one of our retreats, and we climbed a mountain together, and she went to the top of the mountain after not being physically active for most of her life, put her arms up in the air and said, "Look at me, I'm a medical miracle. I can climb mountains without psoriasis or arthritis now on no medications." You know, it's not a miracle, because it's not a medical miracle. The miracle is, and the message here, is that inherently your body is the miracle. You have a self-healing body, that these diseases are not natural. It's not natural to have psoriatic arthritis. It's natural to be healthy. It's not natural to get cancer, to get heart disease. You're taught and you're trained and you're brainwashed to think that these diseases, right? You're brainwashed to think that these diseases are genetic, the natural consequence of aging, and just bad luck, and there's nothing you can do about it except go to your doctor and let him take care of your health by giving you drugs. Isn't that what most people think? You've taken away all of your self-determination. You've taken away all of your ability to take control of your health and do the right thing. So there's Jody. Here's Chris Miller. Chris Miller is a medical doctor, living in Aspen, Colorado, who developed lupus, put on steroids and other drugs, didn't get better, had to quit her job as a doctor, couldn't work in an emergency room anymore, too sick to work, too much risk of infection to be safe for other people to be in contact with her, pretty much had to quit work, and then, after these drugs failing her and feeling so bad and losing her hair, she came to one of my immersion programs, and she was shocked by what she heard, and she changed her diet, and what do you think happened? Her lupus went away. Right, she didn't die. Her lupus went away. She's back a physician again. She's back as a functioning doctor, working again. And you know what? She just ran a race. Now she's running, skiing, enjoying her life. She got her life back on no medications. Here's Kelly with autoimmune hepatitis. At age 50, she found out she had an ALT, a liver with greater than 500. She was told by her doctors that if she didn't take high-dose steroids and other immunosuppressive drugs like Imuran, she'd need a liver transplant or be dead. Yet she refused that, because she contacted me through the member center on the website and asked me if it's safe for her to try this for a while to see if she could stop not to take the steroids or the drugs. And I said to her, "I don't know for sure, but let's give it at least a few weeks and see what happens." Here's what happened. There's the data. After just 3 weeks, her levels started to improve. Isn't that amazing? Just 3 weeks after telling her she was going to die. You can see after April, May, or June, her levels dropped from 500 to about 250, right? They dropped in half. By September, they dropped to 100. Don't forget, normals are like below 50 or something, right? Within 1 year, her level was completely normal with no autoimmune hepatitis, made a complete recovery, and she never looked back and was never sick again a day in her life. Pretty amazing, huh? Now, what's similar to all these cases, in every case, the doctor involved with their case told them that if they didn't follow the doctor's advice and take the drugs, they would die, need transplantations, or do something radical, that this is radical and not going to work. They all were told diet didn't work. It reminds me of a case. I have to tell you a case with a bad outcome. There was a girl, a teenager. By the way, I have a teenage patient with lupus who was on the National Renal Transplant List with a creatinine of 4.2. You know what a creatinine of 4.2 means? That means you're waiting for a kidney transplant. She got her creatinine down to 0.8. She got completely well again and off the medications. Amazing, right? I wouldn't even think that would happen, but it does. So I have this person call me on the phone. Their daughter is hospitalized in a hospital in Boston. I think she was in Brigham Young Hospital in Boston. And she wanted to take the daughter out of the hospital to see me as a patient because the drugs were not working and she was continuing to deteriorate and her numbers were getting worse under conventional care. So what do you think happened? They put a policeman, the doctors involved with the case, got a court order and put a policeman in front of the room and wouldn't let the child leave the hospital, or the parents control the child's care, and the doctors now had free rein to do what they want without the parents' intervention into the case. So the parents brought a lawsuit in Connecticut where they lived, and they had me travel to Connecticut to testify before the judge. It's a sad case, just to warn you in advance. And they had me testify before the judge some of my outcome with lupus patients using this approach, and to show that this person was deteriorating and not getting better under conventional care. And when the judge saw the cases and reviewed my science, and he ruled in our favor to allow the child to leave the hospital and come to my clinic and see if we could help her. And I wasn't going to stop. Don't clap. The child died before she left the hospital. This was because there was such a delay of weeks and weeks of getting the child out of the hospital, because the medical profession was able to keep the kid there against the parents' will. And you know what? In the hospital, they reported to me that there were multiple police officers on the floors keeping kids in the hospital against the parents' wishes, because the doctors decided this was the care that was right for the children, and they weren't letting the children go out and do another type of care other than it was conventional care. You following that? You could see what just to give an example of the type of, what I've been living with all these years. It's been a big fight. Here's April, who had severe multiple sclerosis. By the age of 48, her tongue got numb, and she lost control of her body and couldn't walk anymore. She slurred like a drunk. She couldn't control her bladder. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, with lesions in her brain. And what do you think her doctors told her? They told her, if you don't take these drugs, you're going to deteriorate and be in a wheelchair the rest of life, and you're never going to get well. Did that happen? No. She was informed that diet had no impact on MS. With just 6 weeks of following this program, she got feeling back in her tongue, and she started to be able to feel and to talk normally again. The slurred speech went away. She was thrilled. That was just 6 weeks. Within 6 months, she was back to walking and feeling normal again. And now she's repaired herself, has no multiple sclerosis, no signs of it. It gradually went away. She's lean, strong, healthy, at her perfect weight. She lost 40 pounds, and she's back to enjoying a healthy life again, like so many others with multiple sclerosis. Here's Janet, who had multiple sclerosis too, had MS, lost 100 pounds. She was on steroids and other drugs, but she lost her 100 pounds, got rid of her MS, her migraines, no more high blood pressure, and back to living a normal life. And these people are so grateful, and they are the superheroes. Because think of what they had to do to achieve wellness, to go against the advice of their doctors, who always threatened them and told them this couldn't work and wouldn't work and was going to kill them, and their diet doesn't work. They had to be courageous, right? But here's John, who lost 160 pounds. This is an interesting story. He's a truck driver who started dating Sarah, who was overweight with multiple sclerosis. But he was 160 pounds overweight. He weighed over 350 pounds, too. So he lost his weight, got healthy, and he started dating Sarah as he was losing weight, and he started telling her about my work because she had multiple sclerosis. And what do you think happened to Sarah? Oh, I went the wrong way. What do you think happened to her? She lost 100 pounds, got rid of her multiple sclerosis, and they got married. This is better than Bachelor in Paradise. Look at her now. Wow, amazing, huh?